has to be fair to you to be fair. Remember that. As a creative, nothing is fair if it's not fair to you. Hi everybody, I'm Alex, and this is Guiding Creatives, the community for creatives, freelancers, multi-passionate people, where I help and guide you get whatever it is you want out of your creative pursuits. Jobs, money, freedom, energy, opportunity, imagination. Maybe you want your art in a museum one day. I'm here to help you do it. Today I want to talk about an issue that I see come up often with people. I personally, as a freelancer, have experienced it myself. I just want to talk about how to handle it. And what I'm referring to is non-competes. How do you deal with non-competes in whatever industry you're in? Before I get too deep into the topic, let's explain what a non-compete is. So a non-compete is often a legally binding contract. Legally binding. Emphasize that. It's usually between an employee, a contractor, a freelancer, a creative, and their client, buyer, employer. What it does is it tells you, the creative, that you cannot work within the industry with direct competitors within a certain time frame and even geographical area. So if I work for example, a fast food chain, I can't work for other fast food chains in my area. That's what that means. There is some legitimacy to these requests because obviously they don't want you sharing their secrets. They don't want everybody replicating their strategy, and they don't want you to exploit their business model or business plan and use it to get business, and it would ultimately hurt their business because you would be spreading everything around, which that's fair. There is fairness in a non-compete, and I've personally signed one. I worked with a oil and gas company. That's a lifetime ago. I had to sign a non-compete. I couldn't work within the industry for I think like 2 years or something after I quit. In that position I was in, I think it was a little bit manipulative to me because my role was so down the food chain. What could I have possibly revealed to a competitor that would change the industry? Anyway, I digress. Like I said, these are legally binding contracts. These can be upheld in a court of law. Like, this is not something to play around with. If you sign it, you have to abide by it. I'm a firm believer in respecting contracts. You as the creative would want your client or customer to abide by your contract, so you'd have to do it both ways. But that's not what this talk is about. This talk is about reading the fine print, protecting yourself, and personally not signing non-competes. Here are a few reasons why I don't recommend signing non-competes. Something that's kind of obvious is they limit your career opportunities. If you are working in an industry that, for example, what if you work for a digital marketing industry and then they say you have to sign non-compete and you are a digital marketer? Like, that is just so unreasonable, and it really keeps you tied to a company, which is just unfair. I don't think that that's fair. Another thing to remember is non-competes can also prevent you from starting your own business. If you are working for a magazine and they say that you have to sign non-compete and you want to go start your own magazine, nope. You'll actually probably see this in some of your favorite podcasters. A lot of them work with big networks that basically own the rights to them as a creative, which I think is disgusting. Partnership and ownership are two very different things. Protect yourself. I have a podcaster that I love, and she couldn't have her own podcast for like a year after she quit this big brand. And everybody was just waiting for her to come back, but that's why it took her so long. That just stunts your growth as a creative, and I don't think it's respectful to you as an individual. You have one life. A year to year, that can make such a difference. The third issue I have with this, which ties into that, is it just restricts your freedom as a creative, and I'm all about creative freedom. I'm about employment freedom. I'm about financial freedom. I love freedom when it comes to career. And a non-compete is just an automatic chokehold on your freedom, and I'm not about that. The fourth reason is when there are geographic constraints involved, it can really uproot your life if you desperately need a job. And something to consider is sometimes these non-competes hold up even if you're fired or let go. That's a problem. So if you're dealing with this and you can't work in your region and you need work, this can cause you to relocate. This can cause you to just be stuck in a really bad situation. So I really don't like that. Another issue I have, which I've actually seen in my personal life, is that non-competes are often used as a manipulation tool and a manipulation tactic and an exploitative tactic to not compensate you for extra work, to not promote you, to not give you raises. Because what are you going to do? You can't go work for somebody else. You can't go work within your industry. You can't leave us. So we keep you stuck. So rude, and it is so discouraging, but I see it so often. So I wanted to bring those up because I just want to stress to you that signing a non-compete can look so simple. It can be a full form in itself. Trick though, I often see non-competes tied into NDAs or tied into work contracts in a small little section that you might not even realize. Read the full contract always, because people try to sneak in a non-compete, which is really unfair to you. And you might say like, oh, I've signed non-competes and I went and done it anyway. If they ever find out, they will come after you. And it'll be your fault at that point. Because if you sign a legally binding contract and you break that contract, that's on you, you know? I want to protect you, but I can only protect you proactively. Retroactively, out of my jurisdiction, you need to go get a lawyer. I'm going to give you some advice on how to avoid signing a non-compete, but in the cases that you can't or it's a very serious client, I'm going to show you how you can sign one and still protect yourself. To avoid signing a non-compete with a client, one, if the work is a one-off project, this is not a long-term collaboration, and it's something simple, like if you're not building their brand strategy, or even if you are at a role that is very minuscule, like you are creating a social media graphic for them, you're not getting all the ins and outs of their company secrets. You're not getting their strategy. You are just creating a piece of content. You don't have access to anything, and it's a one-off project. Right then and there, you can say that you are not at a high enough level involved with their company for them to go for a non-compete. You don't have trade secrets that you can share. It's unrealistic for your role, and you are not going to sign it. You can also simply say, if this is not a long-term collaboration and you are only offering me a one-off project, it's not respectful to me in my career to try to limit my opportunities when I'm only being offered a short-term project. Then maybe you might get a long-term opportunity. They can't fault you for that. If you get a contract that has a non-compete, I want you to stop what you're doing. Go talk to them and say, hi, I noticed that there's a non-compete ingrained within this contract. I don't know if this is standard practice for you, but for this partnership and the work I do, this doesn't actually fit with my business model. This is not a long-term collaboration, or this is not a position where I'm going to have access to trade secrets. If you would like to continue, we are going to need to revise or remove this. Please let me know your thoughts. You can also say, for example, I am a strategist, so I help people with their strategies when it comes to social media, YouTube, Pinterest. I'm a strategist. I've worked with a bunch of niches, and I obviously do not share between competitors. I've worked with people in the same niche, but that just gives me more insight to their niche. When it comes to their brand, I deal with that individually on a completely unique level. I don't cross-reference. I don't go back. Understanding a niche and understanding a business is two different things. So when people try to get me to sign non-competes, I tell them, my job, my professional role is a strategist. I work with a variety of niches, and my information has come from extensive studies, extensive research, extensive courses, years of work, and I have ownership to that. As a professional, I am happy to sign an NDA where your personalized business goals are private to you and they are never shared outside. However, because your brand strategy, because your audits, because of all this is unique to you, an NDA will protect you in the ways that you need protecting. The non-compete would infringe on my expertise and the work I've put into my career and give you ownership over something that's not yours. So I will not be signing it. You just have to tell people. You have to understand. Sometimes I've worked in positions where I have to sign a contract out. They send me the template. I change a couple names, I change a couple dates, and I send it. Some people don't even know what they're sending you. Some people don't even understand the difference between a non-compete and an NDA. So as long as you can show that you uphold their privacy, that's all they can ask of you. It's not fair for them to ask you to sign a non-compete. Now, when you are a creative and you move into this more long-term collaboration, like if you are working with someone on a monthly basis, the plan is for it to be long-term, so they want you to sign a non-compete because they are really, really ingraining you into the company. For example, I'm working with a business. They found me as a freelancer. They hired me as a freelancer. I started working with them month a month, but I had this very individual role. I wasn't ingrained into the company, and I wasn't ingrained into their everyday meetings. Now I am. Now I'm a big part of their business, which is great. I love it. But the dynamics have changed. So it's realistic for them to ask me to sign a non-compete because I am getting business secrets. I am seeing what goes on behind the scenes. I'm seeing their audience specifically on all platforms. I'm seeing their future plans. Like, I'm seeing a lot of information that I now understand why they might want me to sign a non-compete. However, you have to sign it on your terms. Some of these terms include setting a realistic timeline. I'm working social media for a brand. Social media changes so quick. If I quit today with them, a year at maximum is enough time for a non-compete in that industry. Things change so quick, that's realistic. Another thing to note is define their industries. For example, if you work with a fast food chain, are they going to stop you from working in any food and drink? Because if some kind of like wine or like beer company want you to work with them, that's two different industries. It's not really fair. Like, McDonald's is not competing with Bud Light, okay? They're not. Yes, they're in the same industry, but the market, the trade secrets, the audience, it's different. So make sure it's clearly defined and very specific to what industry you can't work in, because it's not fair for you to take this whole umbrella industry for a very small subsection of that. Just make sure that the subsection is defined, and that's what the non-compete applies to. Another thing to look at is geographic location. If you are in a certain area, maybe set the limits to something that's reasonable. If it's global, that is kind of hard. Like, I'm online, so realistically they could say global, but I do think it's then important to define their audience. If their audience is specifically Canada, for example, and then a European company who only targets people in Europe wants me to work for them, that's fair game. That's fair game, so define that. Another thing you need to protect yourself on is define when these terms apply. I would define this long-term partnership, because if they're saying, oh, it's a month-to-month basis, but this non-compete is good for a year after you've quit or been let go, a month-to-month basis is not enough to sign that, because they could just keep you for another month and drop you, and then you're a year without work. Either they define your contract, set that in stone, or you have a clause that if you are fired or let go, that they can't stop you from chasing other opportunities. Because if they don't have opportunities for you, they can't limit your career. That's just cruel to say, hi, we don't have work for you, and because of our non-compete, you can't find any more. Nuh-uh. Those are just some of my tips for non-competes. If you have any, I would love to hear them. If you want some more personalized advice, I do one-on-one coaching sessions. I'm happy to help. Protect yourself. I don't sign non-competes. The only time I would sign it is if it's really a long-term collaboration, or it's a very big, high-paying client with a very deep look into the brand and the business. But even if I do sign a non-compete, it's specific, it's defined, and it's not limiting. It's reasonable and it's fair. It has to be fair to you to be fair. Remember that. As a creative, nothing is fair if it's not fair to you. Thank you so much. Don't sign non-competes unknowingly. Negotiate your terms and stay creative.